Today's episode is extra special. This is taken from the last Condor Live event. Now, I have edited out pretty large portions of this talk to protect people, but you get the gist of it. There's a lot of great information packed in here. If you want to hear the full conversations, you're going to have to come to a live event because there's some things I simply will not share publicly. So let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to leave a review. Do you realize on iTunes, we haven't had a review in like a year, fam? Come on. If you've been listening to the podcast, go leave a review, something you've enjoyed, something that was a big takeaway. It would mean the world to me.
Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration, leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Talk Cole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
All right, y'all, nice deep breath. So we started doing panels at the last Condor, and it was one of the things people enjoyed the most because they learned a lot and they got to learn about other people too, which was just like super helpful and beneficial. And so what I really want to focus on a bit on this panel is talking about origin stories, right? And really talking about like, how did you get here? And I don't just mean here Condor, but it's like, what was the moment that got you on this path from where you were, where it was more of either the shamanic or more the plant medicine or more the self-awareness. And so we're gonna first go around and do an introduction so people know who you are and what you do. And then we're gonna go into a little bit of backstory with each of you of what was that moment where you were like, okay, there's something else I meant to do. I'm not really sure what it is, and like where you were at that point. So we'll do intros first, and then I'm just gonna be in dialogue with each of you, really.
Hey, y'all. I'm Dawn Ellinwood. My traditional intro would be, I'm a hairdresser, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. More recently, I'm now a Kambo practitioner. I'm a snake venom, sacred animal venoms practitioner. I'm a Condor coach. Yeah, I do a lot of things.
So I am Sincere Seven. I run the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit. I am the word commonly reused as shaman or psychonaut, and somebody who deals with altered states of consciousness for healing and traveling and things, as well as a medicine man specializing in sacred animal venoms, teaching, utilizing snake venom, scorpion venoms, Kambo things for healing. Like I said, I run the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit. Proud father of 7, lifetime student, and a honored teacher.
Hi, I'm Mandy. So I am an entrepreneur. I also work with medicine, both in facilitating one-on-one journeys and couples retreats. I'm also a coach. And more recently, I'm now going to say I'm a writer for those that were here in the space yesterday. And yeah, I work primarily with shame and guilt. I focus a lot in tantric spaces, energetic spaces, and helping people just overcome the things that block them. And that's a really general term, but when you start working one-on-one, you figure out as you go what they need.
And so for you, Dawn, because part of the reason that I pulled the 3 of you up specifically now is because you're on similar paths, but on different aspects of it and different expressions of it. And so for me, it's almost like looking at like a type of rose. There's different kinds of roses, right? And the ways that they grow. And then there's a lot of similarities too. Tell me a little bit about a moment that kind of shifted you more into this path. And then looking back from when you first started Condor, like what's different in how you're showing up to serve people or starting to, or what's changed?
It's funny because Dice and I just had a thread of this conversation. I was sharing earlier that there's things that I'm doing now. When I look backwards, I see all the signs. Like Kambo, for example. Kambo, I probably heard about it 12 years ago, and I was like, oh, no, not doing,
I would never.
No. And yet, 7 years after that, it popped up again. And I was like, again, no. no. Then it was like, okay, I had a dream where I was in like a Grand Theft Auto, and I would the car, and I would find someone on the street, and it'd be like, where's the combo? And they'd be like, I don't know. And I'd, where's the combo? And they'd be like, I don't know. And I'm like, I have to find it. And I'm driving like crazy, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? And two of my friends in medicine circle were like, we know what your next medicine is. And I was like, oh, no, not me. Capo. And then I start looking back, and I'm like, oh, when I was a kid, we had tree frogs everywhere. The rain barrel right outside my bedroom window had a whole community of frogs that would wake me up in the morning. So when I start looking back, there's from learning Reiki at 26 to deciding I was going to take my staff from the salon to a Aloha Awakenings retreat on Maui. And they said, oh, there's this little prayer circle that if you want to join, you can. Just bring all white clothes. And I'm like, awesome, love a prayer circle. It was ayahuasca. I had no idea what it was when I tried
prayer
it.
circle?
Still a prayer circle. But then I was like, I think Sting talked about ayahuasca in his book. So for me, it's been, when I trust that I'm being led the right way, these beautiful surprises come up. And Condor is much like that. I was listening to a podcast, and Luke Story was interviewing you and Todd, and I was like, ooh, I don't know why I need to be there. I just need to be there. And I remember it was a quick phone conversation. I'm like, yep, gonna make it happen. And then I was coming in February, shit was hitting the fan, and I'm like, yeah, I can't leave my two daughters right now. They're both wilding out. So came to June, and that was like the perfect time for me to come. The small part of me that goes, nothing has changed. I'm still insecure. I still hide my things. All that's what I want to say. And I have found that the way I relate to my children is different, and letting go of having to be like the totally on top of it mom is way softened, where I'm like, okay, I can step back and they're physically fine, can do that. I think I'm just much more available in life versus just hiding in busyness. So I might not always look as productive on the outside, but it's a whole lot better in here.
I love that. And so, when we were talking a bit yesterday about transferring skill sets, because you're like, I'm a hairdresser, but the reality is you've sat with thousands of people in your chair and heard their struggles and their sadness and their stories, right? And so now as you've been sitting with that and looking through a little different lens of how do all of these skills and tools actually make you the perfect person to help and support, and whether we call it coaching or mentorship or guardianship or medicine carriership, there is all those skills actually integrate together. So what's in your thought process now, just in these last, 28 hours or whatever it's been, since looking at slightly different at all those skills?
I love to get in the overwhelm of, oh my God, I don't know where to start, so I'm just going to do what I do. I've actually had several gems. Like Kelly dropped this huge diamond right before our conversation in the main room, where she was like, what if you did a makeover day, an inside-outside beauty? Could be start with Cambo, and then you do hair and beauty and this and that. And I was like, okay, so I'm kind of like, that could be really good, because I like doing hair. I just don't always like the standing in the demand.
Totally.
Of having to.
Well, and like when it's haircut after haircut, where's the inspiration?
Right.
Kind of more of the collaboration and creation is not as there the same.
So yeah, so I've got some percolations going, and I had said to Dice a couple years ago, I just want people to give me money to hang out with me. So he's like, why don't you do a slumber party? And I'm like, oh, okay. Dawn and PJs, I don't know. So some things are coming.
Dusk to dawn.
Dusk to dawn. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Okay, you would. All right.
Mandy's
so
in.
Thank you for calling me forward. I'll start putting some shit together.
I've also learned that if I just tell people at the last minute, then they can't stress about it, because
Yeah.
we're just having a conversation.
Totally.
If I tell someone yesterday, some people need to know for their emotions, I get that. But most people, I just check in, where's their energy now versus where was it yesterday? Because you all know we flux and flow, where you have one moment you feel great. Then tomorrow when it's time, you might be like, this is too much right now. I'm in a process. So thank you all for coming up to have it. Yes. All right. Sincere 7.
Okay, so I'll process the question. And my motivation in human design is guilt. And I felt that was really weird. Like, what the fuck? And I could say that Oye, for those of y'all who know him, he's the one who introduced me to this. He called me one day. He said, hey, man, how long you been serving your community and serving people mushrooms? And I said, man, about 15 years. He said, how many people have you put through integration? I said, into what? Integration. I don't even know what you mean, so I guess none of them. He said, I just want you to know you failed every one of them. Now, you know me, instantly, I want to.
This is fighting words.
But the guilt hit me like I felt them. Tell me more, what do you mean? And he started telling me and this and that. And he was like, yeah, you need to be at the next Condor. And I'm like, yeah, call this person up. I don't know if I called Tar, he called me. But we ended up on a phone call and, all right, yeah, somebody told me, and somewhere in the conversation, Tar was like, before we go on, I just want to ask you a question. I'm like, yeah. Do you feel safe? The fuck is this weird ass dude talking? Do I feel, bro, we on the phone. What you mean, you know what I'm saying? So it was weird. And he asked me again. And then it was like, inside, I was like, nobody's asked me that. Yeah, I do. And it was weird, like on some construction. I'm from Detroit. This dude asked me on the phone, do I feel safe? What type of weird is? And he's got this voice, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to be comforted by dudes, man. The fuck? Okay? So all my constructs is coming online. Yeah, I feel safe. And we went through the conversation. All right, well, you gonna come? All right, I'm gonna come. All right, here's the price. And I was like, wait, hold on. Wait, what? I can work with you. Cool. And I'm gonna incorporate a couple things because I didn't speak about this yesterday. Cool. You're gonna look out for me, right? Y'all looked out for me on that first one. And I came. And I was already serving. I was already working. But the integration aspects, I'm like, okay, I need to come learn this. And I did. And I thought that I was learning it for my job, for my profession, for my community. And I realized that I was learning it for myself. And I had the greatest change since my first 7-gram mushroom trip. The way I communicated with my partner, with my family, and more than anything, it made me a better father. And I can say that proudly now because I've been working on that because you're not the only one who had nervousness about bringing children and then introducing them to traumas that we have picked up like it's normal. No, I'm supposed to whoop my kids. You don't whoop them, then they're not gonna listen and they gonna be fucked up people and they gonna be wild and do what they wanna do like these other people's kids. But when you watch these other people's kids, when they get older, they have a comfort with life. So it made me a better father. And I came back again and it made me a better person with my community. And I came back and it just kept. Now, when I came the first time, they looked out for me. It's when I came back the second time, it's like, no, what's the price? Just put me on a payment plan. Because when I came the first time, I was broke. Okay, let me just be very clear. I don't know what y'all call it. I call it broke. And I'm talking about no savings account, but my checkings account, I'm living check to check. Savings account, this is new to me. And the second time, I had something in the savings, but it was like, oh, this is kind of dope, so let me get a payment plan. Because when I went home and they said, remember the first time I heard her, she said, oh yeah, we're looking for your investment that you put in. We want you when you return home to, and I'm like, I've heard this shit before. Oh, you're gonna make, when I returned home, I made double, triple what the investment would have been if I had paid the full thing. So just wanted to throw that out there. Every time I've came back, it has assisted me in the growth financially, mentally, emotionally. However, coming to Condor and seeing the changes that it made in me with my community, with how I served my clients, all of these things. Like you said, going back and looking at how did I even start? How did I even come here? I was prior service military. I dealt with a lot of PTSD. I dealt with a lot of violence. I was a very violent, angry person. This room right here talks about a lot about my first time being here and some of the things that come up and me hopping on the mic. Wait, fuck what y'all talking about. No, I'm not. No, this is some bullshit. And just and this has been a crowd that has, instead of, yo, my man, can I talk to you? Come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, why you gotta? No, don't get off the mic. No, tell me more. And it was like, yo, is this all right with you? And I'm looking at the crowd and they like, and I'm like, this all right with them? And then people that I don't know that are totally different. I don't remember. I'm gonna tell the truth. I don't remember who it was. But there was a white woman who was quite seasoned, who called me aside off of me coming off the stage one day. She said, can I talk to you? I said, yeah. She was like, I just wanted to call you over here and tell you, stop playing small. I was like, what? And she was like, your energy, you're this, you're that, it's like, it's so big and you're so this and you're so inspirational. And she's, and you just play small and you just got this energy like you just, like you don't know and you just didn't. I'm like, what the fuck? And it was like slightly offensive, but I'm like, wait a minute. And by the time she finished talking, I was so motivated and I was so, like, I believed what she said. Damn, I do. And that was one of the people who caused me to be like, just let it out, just be free, just be. And it was here that I heard it. And so it was here that I started practicing it. And it's here, only here, that I feel it. Because of that. You know what I'm saying? So it was that for me. It was like me making the changes in who I am is awesome. Me making the financial it brought me back to where I used to be. I used to get money. You know what I'm saying? I was one of the best cannabis growers in Detroit, in Michigan. So money wasn't but what I was doing, and now is like getting back to that, serving my people. So it wasn't the money. It wasn't business. It is the community. It is the community. Continuously, every single one of y'all. Every time y'all look at me, smile at me, stop and talk to me, let me burn holes on you and put venoms in them. You know what I'm saying? I told somebody, we were talking about the community and let's verbalize the differences. Different people who we're different, and 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I wouldn't want to talk to you. Just to keep, but just to keep, I don't want no problems. Now I invite them. Call me the black guy. Yeah. That's some of the growth and development that I've went through from the community that I come from, with embracing the concepts, the changes, and what's shared here.
Nice deep breath. Mandy.
Yeah, I started my CBD business right at the end of 2014. And for me, it was all about trying to come into what the term holistic wellness meant. And for me at the time, I was really into bodybuilding and I was really into self-improvement. I wasn't even considering the spiritual stuff, wasn't even considering the emotional stuff. Physical and mental were good enough. And then I started finding in like 2018, 19-ish, that things started to feel flat in my life. And being in the CBD space, you get acquainted with, oh, you should try mushrooms, or you should do acid, or all these like other medicines. And I had a pretty strict like no drug policy, even though I wasn't considering weed or alcohol to be like drugs at the time, considering that my dad was a methamphetamine maker and a coke addict. So I was very no drugs ever. And then 2019 was the first year that my business did not grow. And I had 40 employees on payroll, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, this is going to be a tough year. This is the first time that I'm going to have to lay people off. And I had to lay 8 people off, and I cried like the night before. I just bawled my eyes out to whatever universal current there was. And That's when somebody came into my life a couple weeks later and was like, hey, you should try ayahuasca. And I'm like, okay, maybe for my 30th birthday, which would have been January 2020, I should go try to find something. And then COVID happened a couple months later, so I didn't get to do that plan. And ultimately, I decided, okay, then let me see if I can find mushrooms. I had a friend that used to be a dealer and would sit for people, so I'll sit with him. And I had no experience. I took 3 grams and I'm like, this is it. Like, I feel a little anxious, but like, I don't see like the walls crawling or anything. A couple weeks later, I try 5 grams, same thing. And I'm like, this is some bullshit. What is supposed to be happening isn't happening. So I gave that idea just a pause with mushrooms. I tried acid. I tried 7 tabs and I had the same flat experience. And my friend took one. And was like crawling up the walls. And I'm just like, okay, maybe God hates me. Like, I'm just not supposed to have an experience. So finally, my boyfriend and I at the time started having some challenges, but ultimately we decided to move to Texas. And I'm trying to like now find peace in my business not doing well, find peace that him and I aren't doing well, find peace that I have no friends in this new space, no community. I don't feel like I fit in. Nobody's really resonating with me. So finally, September 2021, I go to do ayahuasca and I have this absolutely earth-shattering experience. I definitely had some level of a whiteout or blackout experience. I basically had this like multi-orgasmic experience with God and had so much shame and so much guilt show up. And then I go home after a week of this and I'm like, okay, what do I do with that experience? Because my boyfriend at the time was steeped in Western medicine. He was a pharmacist and he did not approve of me going down there or anything. He was supportive and, hey, be safe, but like beyond that, don't talk to me about it. And it's okay. And then I have another friend who does acid to escape his life every once in a while. So he's not necessarily living a holistic life. And I'm like, okay, I've heard of this word integration, but I don't even know what that means. So I start reading different things and I try to integrate myself, but ultimately I felt like it was still falling flat. I find a plant medicine church in Austin. They were having an open house. I meet this person who happened to coin himself a life coach. And I'm like, weird, who needs coached on life? Apparently me, because ultimately he asked me like this very life-shifting question. It was like, what if you lived your life without hope? And it just plunged me back into this depression that I had when I was like 14 or 15. And ultimately, I'm like, I would probably kill myself. And he's like, just live with that question for 2 weeks. Don't actually do it. But what would happen? And my life just started shifting from underneath me. And I like automatically realized, number one, I'd break up with this guy that I'm dating for 5 years. I'd probably end my business, but it was still paying me money. So that took a couple years more to go. And finally, I'm like, I would probably figure out what I should do with my life that isn't CBD. And he's, what is that? And I'm like, I want to help people not go through what I went through. And ultimately, I started looking for integration coaching programs and I signed up for one. It was double the it was a little bit more than this one, but at the time when they were only charging half of it and then charging half on the other side, it was double of what I'd already paid. And I'm just like, I can't do 2 programs at once. And I remember meeting Todd at the Monkey Tree, and he broke down the oppression trap triangle to me. And I was like, if he can teach me in 5 minutes something that this program that I've been in for 2 months hasn't taught me shit, I'm going to make it that I'm taking 2 programs. And ultimately I took that program. I remember talking to Kole and she's just, yeah, I've heard people go through that program and they don't really get what they pay for. And I'm like, yeah. You are absolutely correct. And that's why I'm here on my, I think, 6th or 7th time. And I don't even talk to the people in that group anymore. I feel like I got almost nothing of value from that group in terms of tangible tools that we can teach people or use and walk people through. Like the states assessment at the time was a completely mind-blowing thing. It's super easy now, and I'm like, it comes second nature. So the fact that I'm taking the plunge to get up on the stage, I'm like, I could have done that myself, but also at the same time, one of the things you'll learn is you are your own block. You're constantly you're either going to talk yourself out of the work you need to do, or it's going to be so obvious you just don't want to do that work. So having this accountability coming to this container has been, for me, probably the biggest takeaway is like, I've been having all of this challenge of writing this book for the last year and a half, and finally I'm admitting it to myself that yesterday, okay, I gotta do the work. And now the whole time I'm just like writing up the outline, I'm getting super excited. So for me, it's the frequency of accountability that I get every single time I come here. So for your first time, like, you're gonna go through the tools and understand this, that, and the other. But the second time, you're not going to be starting to become accountable to the tools. And the third and the fourth time, you're going to be like, I know that I am a slut for pain, so therefore I'm going to come here just so that I can have like the sadistic whiplashing of Kole telling you, yo, I'm not telling you have to like sit in front of your computer for 30 minutes, but go torture yourself with that for a little bit. So for me, that's really what the Condor Approach can be for people that don't necessarily know how to keep themselves accountable to the tools. You get the reminders, you get to play with them, you get to mess them up, and then you get to see where you can learn to better improve your coaching. But ultimately, I resonated very much with what Ronnie said yesterday of so often people in the medicine space go through their experience and they come out and they have no idea how to bring that wisdom into a grounded reality. And we were talking about not paranoia yesterday, but psychosis. And for me, psychosis is really just the third eye opening up, but not having something to root or ground in. So ultimately, when we put these people through a psychedelic experience or any transformative experience, it doesn't have to be through psychedelics. It could be breath work. It could be the Condor Approach is just a container. You're opening up your third eye, or you're finally allowing source flow through crown into the third eye. And if you don't have a framework or some sort of basis to ground all of this information in, you're going to feel like a crazy person. And that is not something that I want people to take forward with as a story anymore, because really the question they should be asking isn't, am I manic? It's, am I magic?
Oh, well, just drop it then. Just drop that motherfucker.
That
Okay,
part, it was spiritually dropped.
Right, yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah. And what I would love for this next 15-ish minutes is if you have a question for any of them, because you've been talking, you've been hanging out, and me and Ta can teach no problem all day, every day, as you could imagine, you've seen, whatever. But at the end of the day, how each person applies it is different. How it ends up showing up for them is different. There's similarities. And the reason why we like doing business the first 2 days is because if we do concepts first, you start self-analyzing too deeply to get back in your head for structure on concepts in business. We saw it time and time again. By the time we get to the first business day, people are too deep in like a self-assessment, that they can't get back up into here. So we were like, you know what, let's do business first, because you take all the notes, and guess what? You're going to forget all of it by Friday. You're not going to remember any conversation you had, and it'll come back when it's time. And for me, like, the Condor Approach is really about helping you identify your integrity. What is being in integrity and authentic to you? Because that is usually our block in moving forward, is because some part of us doesn't feel authentic or in integrity. I want to serve people, but if there's that part that doesn't feel like I do have the skills if it goes sideways, then I'm afraid unconsciously to help them, because if I open something I can't support in, the shame and guilt shuts people down hard. And so when you really know that's a possibility, which is a good thing to have that awareness, but I almost feel like that can be the block that keeps the right people from being of service because they're self-aware, and leaves it open to the people that are like, I got this. It'll be fine. I trust the medicine. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. You can trust the medicine to do what? To do what it do, and then you're not any level of responsibility. And when you really care and you're really authentic, then I watch it pull people completely off the path for years because they feel terrible, the shame, they don't know how to face it. These tools help, because the more people you help, it is inevitable at some point you become the villain in someone's story, because they were looking for a savior, and when you weren't that, you got flipped to the other side. And that is so hard on the heart. when you care. Take it from experience, take it from observation. It freaking sucks, okay? And it's one of those that you have to get really clear in who you are so that even through that hurt, you're remembering how many people you've helped and their families, how it impacted their families, their lineages, the possibility for their families. And having that rod makes the difference of you needing to back off for 6 months versus years. Because you backing off means there's people that don't get help again. And having community to call someone and be like, man, listen, like they really think that I fucked them up. Or I felt like maybe it could help, but it might make it worse. And the biggest thing, y'all, is just the one thing I'll say, and then I want to just leave a space for questions. If anyone ever comes to you saying this is my only chance or my only hope, you are taking their life in your hands. If they say this has to work, if you say yes, then you are putting yourself in that possibility. Now, that doesn't mean say no. It means you have a very honest conversation with the person, how you feel about that, because it is their life. And I've had some people say that, no, but I need to do this because the inner compass in them was crystal clear this was correct for them, not because they were desperate for something to change. They actually felt. People that were on SSRIs that lied about it, went to the jungle, all the things you're not supposed to mix, and they got exactly what they needed, their breakthrough, their freedom. So I'm not the one to decide. And we're living in a country where there is possibilities of harm for you. And so this is why having the red flags document and more things we're going to cover over the days, identifying your safety is step one. What helps you feel safe? What are your red flags with people you might want to sit with? Because if you've got shared custody or bank accounts or things that could be at risk if you got in legal trouble, you want to know where your boundaries are because it's not just about you. Right? It could impact the other people in your life. And so many people go into this saying, I trust that I have this calling. That's great. And it's a great first step, but it's not the last step. And so when you can get clear in who you can start helping now and focus on that, you're going to increase the possibility of quote unquote success. And if anyone has a question for anyone up here as they've been building their business or starting to serve people or what they've done along the way, because all of us at some point feel like either an imposter syndrome or I messed up or fell out of integrity or had not a great day or something.
Hello.
Perfect.
Sincere. I wanted to actually touch upon that human design element where you said your motivation was guilt. So mine is also, I found out. And that's been really interesting for me to navigate because I'm also really resonating with the whole like stepping back for a really long time. Because I've really noticed a lot of my own shame and guilt dynamics and how that has also stopped me from being out there as a coach. Because I've actually been in the life coach world since I was 18, so about 15 years, but I've stepped in and out of it. I've tried to negotiate my way out of it. I've tried to evade and hide and guilt myself and shame myself, but then also yeah, and I know too that some of that human design word is, again, what Taylor referenced, a little bit of those words can be slightly off. And I guess that's part of where my question is like that relationship with stepping into that power. I also tend to make myself small so that I'm safe and not seen. And as I continue to also use this lovely container to let myself be big and expand wide and deep and in all the areas. Yeah, I guess if there's something in this that, like hearing more of your lived experience of navigating that aspect, because someone else said that their motivation is hope. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, I'm a black light worker. So it's, yeah, just thoughts, feelings, experiences.
Advice.
I'm also a 1-3, so I see you.
Okay. So I guess what came to mind, one of the things that I feel good to be able to brag about is my integrity. And I feel like that's where it came from. Being a 1-3 investigative martyr is not just investigating processes and, how to do things, but also emotions and interactions. I was a liar when I was young because I was scared. I was abused, so I was scared. So to keep from anything happening, I would always just say what I needed to say to keep me safe. And one day I heard somebody say, if a month will lie to you, they'll steal from you. If they'll steal from you, they'll kill you. And I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. I was just trying to stay out of, that's how y'all think about liars? And that thought was like, damn, and that guilt, it's like, I don't want to kill. I don't want to steal. I don't want to lie. I got older and I got to practice, and that's when I changed my name to Sincere, which means without wax. From the times of statues, when they would put statues in the fire and it would come out and they would show the blemishes because the wax would melt away. And they learned that a sincere piece, forget the painting, when you put it through the fire, it has no wax. That's what it means. So my integrity, if I don't know, I'll tell you. If I fucked up, I'll tell you. If whatever it is. And so I think that guilt factor, to avoid feeling it, I just make sure that I don't practice anything that I would feel guilty about. Furthermore, I am under the understanding that everything in life is recorded. We think of cameras and all that. No, it's recorded. Back in the day, they was writing on with stones, and who the fuck did that? I don't know, but it was recorded. Any and everything you do, and you in the room by yourself right now, and you at somebody else's house, you about to stick that gum up under that. I can't do it. Somebody's seeing me stick that, let me take this shit and go. And that's how I operate. Everything I do, everywhere I'm at, is being watched at all times. And if you really bear witness to the spiritual realms, then it should be easier. If you bear witness to spiritual realms and you doing slimy shit when you by yourself, you don't bear witness to the spiritual realms. So that guilt, it just is a litmus test. You on point? You good? You doing right? Yeah, okay, cool. That's why I don't have no secrets. Anybody can ask me anything. And I tell my community how I'm gonna be your medicine man and your shaman. I know your diseases, your secrets, who did something to you, who you did something to, but I'm gonna hide something. Nah, you can get it all. And that guilt is that motivation of guilt is what motivates me to not do anything I'll be guilty of. So I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? We have time for one more. Yes, Jared. You can just take it out. Yeah, so you don't have to crouch.
I don't know how to ask this, and so maybe I'd open it up for any questions if I sound vague, but I've had a couple opportunities to help facilitate, and it just lit me up and just made me so excited and felt so honored to be a part of that. But I feel like I would like to step into that space of retreats. I don't know how yet, but at the same time, everything circles around about, I don't know anything. I don't know the protocols about safety of this. I don't know about the legality of it. I'm like, I've tried to talk to lawyers and they're like, what are you talking about? And so I guess what I'm asking is, where do I start with some of that stuff? Who do I talk to? What do I read? I can't, it's hard to even find it on the internet type of thing.
What they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will reveal himself. Yep. You share that with whoever, and the right person be like, wait, what? My man was saying something about winemaking and growing mushrooms, a couple of other people, and it was like a question that came up, and I was like, wait, you don't know about that? You want to know? Oh, I'm hoping they call me and I can give them all of the tools and the jewels and the secrets. That's what you want. That's what you want. Like, the true people are looking for people to carry on because it's great and it's for the people. People who are just trying to be people, they want to keep that to themselves. Let them keep it because it's not worth anything.
Yeah, part of the thing that really excited me as I've been here to think about it is I don't want to deal with big groups. I want to deal with high-profile clients.
For me, that comes by the energy and the imprint that happens, whether we call it in the universe or God. Once you're called on this path, you don't get to say no. You can resist it as long as you want to, but it's who you say yes to. And so it's, as people will come along, you'll know from how they run their business, their life, and their relationships, their integrity, their authenticity. If you wouldn't do business with them, don't sit for them.
Yeah, okay.
If you wouldn't let them around your kids, don't sit with them. Because if there's some part where it's questionable for you, then it's probably going to show up in that space at some point. And as your skill sets grow, less things become a threat, actually. But it's by first only say yes to people that you already know, trust, and feel safe with you do. And then in the intake process, It's just having such open dialogue of what happens when, hey, if this came up, I like to say, who can we call if you got in a tough spot, for you to remember about that you're in an experience and everything's going to be okay, so that if they suddenly don't trust you, we have a phone a friend option. Or if they want a partner in the space, like, you can do a lot of work on the front end to prevent that fear piece, but it's such a future bridge that it's don't let that even come into the now thoughts, because it's not helpful.
Yeah, that's my problem.
It's your opportunity.
That's my opportunity, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say one last thing. If you're operating in America, just depending on what substance you're serving, like Cambo and snake venoms, those are legal, totally fine. But obviously mushrooms are going to be on the illegal side. So when you start getting more and more clients, one of the things you may consider is becoming a church. And while that doesn't give you 100% blanket protection, if I remember correctly, when I was talking to a lawyer about this, there was only 2 cases that were taken to court, and both of them won their case, so you didn't have an issue. Ultimately, though, if you're doing things by the books and you're generally like not a very like forward-facing, loud organization, you're gonna probably be okay there. Yeah, you just have to get a legal like church charter.
Got it.
So
I have a lawyer friend in the event that is a path that anybody here is going. So.
Thank you.
But again, that also means things get messy, and as it get messy, laws changed. So it's like you really can't depend on the laws. That so much of this has to be with knowing your boundaries, listening to your body cues. When something doesn't feel safe anymore, you pause and pull back from it for a little while.
So just to add on real quick, like, one, as far as the church thing goes, I'm not sure who's familiar, but there are, I forget what you call it, but you basically, oratory and mystical sacraments. Another one is, and I don't know about the Church of Turtle Island, they don't have no seal, but there are legal, with the government, agreements that you can get as a facilitator. So anywhere you are practicing with sacraments, it is a church at that time. And it was. Last thing, start off with things that are not illegal in whole space.
Yeah.
Do Sanag and Rape ceremonies over months.
Kana.
Yeah, Kana. And like you said, the microdosing, those lighter things to start holding space, because things will come up even in those smaller spaces, and you'll learn to navigate them. Then you'll know when you're ready to go into those more controlled things.
Thank you. And that's why I keep coming back. Love you guys. I have immersed myself full at 100%, and I don't see another like place that I'd want to be right now. So thank you guys. Love you.
Yes, thank you. And that's really why in the community, it's just by you saying that, then more people that are like, oh, read this book, do this. Oh, I will be sharing on our podcast, The Psychedelic Coach, that comes out. It was supposed to come out Monday, but it'll come out today, with Jordan Gruber and James Fadiman. They have a new microdosing book that launches this week. I will honestly say I wasn't stoked when they first told me about it. A lot of the medicalized style books and research books are super boring to me. It's the best book on microdosing I've read. So it is a solid, great place, a good mix of case studies, information, medical dosages, different examples, that it is absolutely worth the amount. They sent me the PDF ahead of time, and I started listening, and it was a great resource. So you can hear me actually talk to Jordan about it, but it's a really solid book, and he helped him also with the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide. Jordan did. And so it's a great resource. And within this community, there's a lot of people, a lot of coaches and facilitators that have ebooks and downloads and things for you too. If you don't already know about the website, erowid.org, EROWID, that'll teach you about contraindications. That will teach you about different substances and what they can be mixed with and what they can't. Incredible resource. So that's another great place. If you want to run a retreat, if you want to work with ayahuasca, go down to Ecuador with Goddess Jocelyn. They do the intake. They handle the medical aspects. They work with the Shuar tribe, so you get to actually have an indigenous experience there. But they do all that. You just get to talk about it legally and freely because it's in Ecuador where it's legal. But it's a great way to build your business, to have something you can share that's legal. And I like to look at it as 3 rings: an outer ring that anyone can see, an inner ring that's maybe like a microdosing coaching program, but something where it's not public facing, but it's like a layer in, And then an internal ring, once you meet people and you really know them, then that's you can come to the retreat. Because who you put in the room, whether it's 2 people or 10, matters. Because one person that has betrayal and isolation and fear and all of that can spin out the entire group. And it just means like when an animal gets sick or is wounded, it needs to be separate from the herd to heal first. It's with people sometimes too. They need some solo work before they can come back into the herd, or else they could cause harm. Cool. What'd you think of the panel? We like the panel? Awesome, y'all. Thank you. Thank you.